guys, welcome back to the Back to Me podcast. This is a first. We're doing with an audience for the first time ever. Back to Me kicked off about 2.5 years ago, and it meant a lot to a lot of people. It was all about the Back to Me philosophy, which is, of course, we have a phone in the first 5 seconds of our first ever lives. That's how we do it. We got to keep it real. So Back to Me obviously started 2.5 years ago, and it meant to a lot of people because we talk about letting go. Like everyone in mainstream personal development is always telling you to add on things, to set more goals, be more disciplined. And Back to Me basically is all about letting go. It's about letting go of everything that you're not so you can get back to who you are. It's that simple. It's about letting go of the illusion. It's about letting go of the thoughts, the stories, the language, the beliefs. Back to Me is just a way of letting go. Because if we just say letting go of what? And Back to Me is about letting go of everything that's not our truth. And it's kind of, some of you know me from the business side of things. Some people know me from the corporate training, the keynote speaking. But Back to Me is the heart and soul of everything I do. So what we wanted to do this time was to go live with an audience. We're going to film the podcast live. Then we're going to turn off the live stream. And we're going to just do a bit of a Q&A about the topic. So whenever you attend live, you're going to get that real experience. So what I was thinking of calling this first video today, this first podcast live, is I Know Nothing, right? So this is the first episode, I Know Nothing. Aren't you glad you tuned in? So I Know Nothing is basically something I felt for the last few months. I went home to Ireland in the summer from Dubai, and I was needing a break. I was feeling burnt out, feeling tired, feeling frustrated, and I was seeking answers. And after a few weeks at home, I was doing a workout outside on the grass, back in my house, barefoot on the grass. And I remember after the session, the endorphins were flowing, and I felt this wave come over me. And basically, it was, I know nothing. And it sounds so simple, but it was a really profound moment for me. I realized, I know nothing. Like, I don't know anything. And what it told me was the stress I was feeling, or the burnout I was feeling, was all because of the expectation on myself. Like, I have to deliver, I have to show up, I have to over-deliver to my clients, I have to help these companies make millions more than they normally make, I have to help these people find more confidence than they've never found, I have to help these people improve their relationships. It was always all this self-imposed pressure, this expectation. And I was just feeling like I was not back to me. I was losing myself again. I was thinking, I'm becoming the performance. And this is what happens, right? We all end up performing unconsciously. And lucky enough, over the last few years and consistently seeking awareness, I know when I'm off. I know when I'm out of alignment. And I was, lucky enough to set that intention. And that's what the message is today really is, to recognize that sometimes you feel stress, you feel pressure, you feel burnout. It's because you have this expectation. And when you say to yourself and you realize, I know nothing, it's very freeing. You start to feel like, I just get to be myself. And that was the whole thing. I was down on the grass. I was feeling emotional. My head was down on the grass. And I was just thanking God. I was just like saying thank you. Like, what an opportunity that I get to be myself for a living. And that's why I always say, this is not what I do. People say, how do you do what you do? And how do you talk in front of people? And how do you talk for hours with no notes? It's not what I do. It's who I am. And if you've listened to the Back to Me podcast for a while, you know the importance of getting back to the truth of who you are. Who are you meant to be? Who are you really? Like, what's your journey? What's your identity? What's your personality? What's the truth of who you are? That's what Back to Me is about. And even though I had huge awareness before, even though I experienced so much enlightenment and awakening before, it doesn't mean I'm set forever. It doesn't mean that that's it, now I'm done, I'm aware forever. We're always being pulled back into the world, pulled back into humanness, pulled back into stress, to doubt, to insecurity, to frustration. And the whole theme of I Know Nothing, I think it's a reset, it's an intention, regularly to say, I don't know anything. And then almost like you can just breathe, you can relax, you can say, I don't have to perform all the time. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk about today. And I want you to, there's a couple of steps I wanted you to do because I love when people take away a step of what to do. Okay, and the first thing, one of the themes I'm always talking about is, being a student of yourself. And being a student of yourself is very simple. Being a student of yourself means instead of spending so much time in distraction, instead of spending so much time just watching other people's lives, instead of spending so much time studying your job or studying your business or studying, your market research or listening to music or just reading books, are you willing to be a student of yourself? Are you willing to look into what you're doing? Are you willing to look into yourself, to your identity? Are you willing to be a student of why do you speak the way you do? Why do you think the way you do? Why do you behave the way you do? That's being a student of yourself, questioning everything. Because the mission is to find out how much of a persona, and it's funny, personality comes from the word persona, which is a mask. And we're all wearing masks, and we all need to wear a mask sometimes. When you go to work, you have a different mask than with your partner. When you're by yourself, dancing naked around your house, that's a different mask. Right? When you're out in the party, dancing on a table with all your friends, that's a different mask. Don't get those two mixed up, by the way. Right? That's all mask, but you have to understand if it's an expression of yourself or if it's hiding something. Okay, or if you're the opposite of hiding something, which we don't think about, is are we overly portraying something? Okay, and that could be hiding something as well, a version of it. But what are we portraying? And I think one of the biggest things is the expectation. The expectation. And that reminds me of, meditation. When I talk about meditation to clients, because clients on my personal coaching program, we do a lot of this deep work. It's called Back to Me as well. And a lot of people say, I can't meditate. I try to meditate, but I can't meditate. And I always say to people, you don't have to meditate. Because as soon as you go into meditation to get something out of it, you're not meditating. As soon as you have expectation, it's no longer meditation. So real meditation is silence. If you can just set time to be silent, and in silence what you can do is you just become the observer. You just start to notice things. You just notice, these are my thoughts. You just notice, these are my emotions. That's what being the observer is. But you have to be a student of yourself. You have to be a student of yourself first. You have to be willing to question things. You have to be willing to say, do I give myself moments of silence? Do I give myself a chance to breathe, to ask questions, to think of, who am I becoming? What trap am I falling into? What identities am I falling into? That's what being a student of yourself is. And it just means asking new questions. Okay, get out of assumption. I always tell my business clients, assumptions kill businesses. But assumptions also, they kill our energy and our creativity because we just assume this is the way it is. It's not the way it is. Over the summer when I was feeling stressed, feeling tired, I thought I was doing what I always do, being who I'm always being, but I realized I wasn't. I was actually having to perform, having to present this identity that I've built up. You build up a brand, you build up a story, and that's what attracts clients. But eventually, unconsciously, you fall into that trap instead of freely expressing yourself. And that's why I decided to restart the Back to Me podcast again and do it live, because that's the ultimate message. I mean, that's my whole USP as a speaker, advisor, trainer, coach, mentor, is that all these companies bring me in for one thing, what they think they want, and I end up giving them what I see that they need. And that's the awareness, the alignment, the clarity, because before performance comes people. Before profit comes performance, but before performance comes people. So we all focus on the profit, or we focus on the performance, but we don't focus on the people. And sometimes you're the person, you're the driver. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're a founder, it's people, performance, profit. You're the person that comes first. But the stress and the burnout and the exhaustion comes from being someone you think you have to be. Does that make sense, everybody here? Being someone that you think you have to be. So check in with yourself. Like, that's what the message is today. Recognize that ultimately you know nothing. You only know what you think you know. And even the things you think you know, it's because you've believed them so long you think they're true. Like, I often say to people, what you believe is true is not necessarily true. It's just you believe it's true because you believe it. It's not because it's true, it's because you believe it. Right? So that's very different than something being true, actually. So you have to, that's why I think discernment is so important. And I call it the antidote to AI, which is a separate episode, which we'll do in the future. But discernment of what's real and what's not. That's what's so key. What's real and what's not. What do I believe to be true that's not really true? It's just that I believe it. What do I think to be true that's not really true? I just think it frequently. Everything comes back to, what do you believe is true? And then your brain does something, it locks it in. It's part of your brain called the basal ganglia. It's when things become a reflex. And your brain loves that because there's no energy. It's fast. It's just, boom, this is what we do. It's automatic. It's like when you wake up first thing in the morning, you always do the same thing. You brush your teeth, you go to the same order. Use the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you shower, whatever your order is, you do it. Because it goes into that part of your brain where it's a reflex. And that's why it's so important to have a vision. So go back to the vision episode where we talk about creating your vision. The vision is what's going to pull you. So create that vision. That's got to pull you through the discomfort of creating a new pathway. So there's so many things around that, but we can start there. I think starting there, seeking that clarity, creating some space. At the end of the day, life is an expression. So when I coach entrepreneurs or I go into companies and they have sales teams, so they're career professionals, I always describe their job. I ask them, what is it that you have? And they say, I have a job, I have a business. I believe it's a vehicle of expression. I think that's what we're meant to do. We're meant to express ourselves. Our job, our business, our career, it's an expression. Like if you think of a professional athlete, they're expressing themselves fully, right? You think they're so lucky they're doing what they love. If you think of a musician, a professional musician, a singer, you think, oh, they're so lucky they're doing what they love. And then we think we can't do what we love because, oh, that's talent. What they have is talent. I couldn't do that. I can't play music. I can't sing. I can't act. I can't play soccer like Messi or Ronaldo. I can't play basketball and jump out the gym like Jordan. But you have a talent, you have a gift. And I think if God woke you up today, there's a gift for you to use. And your job should be an expression of that gift. Your business should be an expression. Your job or your business is your financial vehicle. It's supposed to get you through this life. It's supposed to drive you through this life, expressing yourself. It's not about getting to the end. And that's what the world has taught us, is to get to the end. Work until you die, but before that, retire, right? Work until you retire. That's what the world tells us to do. That's the end point. Work, save, invest, and then when you get to the end, you retire. Now you enjoy it. But true expression is not about getting to the end. If you think about playing music, do you know any musician who plays a song to get to the end? Right? When you dance, do you dance to get to the end? If you sing, do you sing to get to the end? No, because it's an expression. And that's what our inner child, our innermost selves, that's what we want to do. We want to dance, play, and sing. So your job and your business is about dancing, playing, and singing. It's that feeling. It's not to get to the end. Like for me, I don't think I'll ever retire because I'm dancing, playing, and singing right now. And I love it. But we have to enjoy the dancing, enjoy the singing. We have to seek mastery. I want to dance the best I can dance. Like people who are gifted singers, they also have vocal coaches to sing better, right? To learn more range, to learn how to control more. Same with dance. People who are naturally, they have rhythm, they still learn how to dance better. So we can seek mastery in our business. We can learn to be better communicators. We can learn to speak better, to sell better, to lead better, to structure better, to organize. We can do all of that. Okay, but it should still feel like an expression. And as soon as you feel like I know everything already, like, again, I got to the place where I'm performing at a high level professionally for many years. I could say for decades now, because it's almost 20 years. I still have to check in and realize I know nothing. I have to let go of the expectation. I have to fall in love with the real performance, not the created performance. I have to fall in love with the expression of sharing from the heart. And we did this event last night with a group of men on men's mental fitness. And I was just talking about that. How do we get back to expression? How do I get back to expressing myself? Your relationship with your partner should be, again, it's like watering a garden. It should be allowing everything to blossom and to bloom. You should be expressing with each other. In your business and in your job, you should be watering each other. You should be watering your clients and helping your clients to bloom, helping your customers, your product. And it doesn't matter if you're selling phones or phone stands or sunglasses, or you're selling coaching or consultancy or business advisory, or you're an accountant, you're an electrician, a plumber, a gardener, a hairdresser, a flight attendant. Doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you're able to express yourself and use your gifts. So that's what today is about. That's what the first episode of Back to Me podcast live, getting back to me. That's what it's about. Letting go of the expectation, letting go of the story. Checking in, am I performing? And I'm a performer technically, but I want to perform from my truth, from awareness. You know, I recognize in that moment when I had that revelation that I was performing to get something back. Right? Again, when you're playing music, it's just to play music as of how it makes you feel. What I was doing is like, I want to perform so I can grow my business. I want to perform to have more clients. I want to perform to reach more people. And you might say there's nothing wrong with that, and there isn't. But eventually that performance puts a toll on you. That performance exhausts you. That performance starts to make it feel like I have to. It doesn't feel like playing and singing anymore. And that's what the I know nothing theme, philosophy, concept, principle is about. Strip it back, let it go. And that's what I did. I said, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to go back to being me. That's what Back to Me was. And that's why people fell in love with this podcast when we launched it. Because it gave people permission. In my Back to Me coaching program, the amount of people who are like, I'm moving through the world differently. I'm myself. I'm just being myself. That's what I want you to start to think about today. Am I being myself, or am I being who I've been told to be? Am I being who I'm being paid to be? Like, who am I being actually? So that's today's episode. I hope you got some value from it. If you're on YouTube, welcome. We're going to do this every week, okay? Right now, next week, it's next Thursday, 2 p.m. right here again. We're going to do it again. And, you know, that's what the Back to Me podcast is about. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or Amazon Music, Google Music, wherever you listened before, go over to YouTube, because we're going to be live on YouTube every week. And if you're in Dubai right now, make sure you come along to the live show. So next week, the link will be in the description of this video to apply the form to be here next week, because we can only fit so many people, 7 or 8 people every week. So make sure you apply, and we might even take this thing on tour after a while if it goes good. So that's today's episode. I hope it was value. Make sure you're getting back to me. Make sure you're letting go of everything that's not you. Last thing I'll say is the book is almost there. The book is all. I said that for a long time, but believe me, this time it's almost there. So I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much.